Greetings, everybody. I'm going to share this with you in case you're going through this, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who've had this experience, and my child definitely is not the only one either. My daughter went to school and she was so excited. It was a new school, new community. She was very happy about meeting new friends. And when she went, it was unbelievable. I didn't know that kids had that in them. They shut her out. They ignored her. She would go from one person to the other trying to have a conversation and they would turn their back. I witnessed that. And I remember telling her, it's okay. They're new. You're new. You don't know each other yet. Eventually they'll come around. My daughter got spat on. There was a boy who always used to trip her. She used to think it was an accident, but he would trip her. He did it so often until we realized what was happening. He would take the gym door and slap her in the back of her head when she's walking through the door. The day when the girl spat on her and it was brought to the attention of a teacher, when the teacher came, she took my daughter aside and started chiding her. She thought my daughter was the one that did it. And when she found out it was the other student, the other non-black student, she asked my daughter, what could you have done to her? Can you think of something you could do different so that doesn't happen anymore? And at that point, of course, I was not willing to look the other way. I wasn't willing to look the other way when the kid kept tripping her or when the kid spat on her, but I definitely realized it wasn't just something that I could ask kids to sort out themselves. That continued for a good 2 years back and forth. And then she changed school and she went to another one. And kids would say some things I don't want to repeat here to her. And when I would address it with those who are in charge, they're not denying that this happens, but what they would do is send my daughter to talk to a counselor. And I thought, okay, these are issues that really hurt her. And so they're trying to help her emotionally. But then I realized that nothing was being done. None of the other kids were called. There was no sign that adults were going to take this as a teachable moment and address it with the kids who were involved in this thing. Now, when it comes to kids, I don't really try to speak ill of kids regardless of what they do, because a lot of what kids are doing has a lot to do with environment and to do with adults around them who encourage that behavior. And so I always tell my daughter, they're still kids. They're here waiting for us to guide them. But I can't tell my daughter that and ignore the fact that she was hurting. And time again, she would come and she would say things to me about the adults, what they were saying to her, derogatory things. Listen, the issue of race should be something that we shouldn't have to bring up anymore. But what can I say? Because I know my daughter could never, ever do a fraction, the smallest fraction of what happened to her and still be in school. But I'm going to say one thing. I am advocating for my child. I've advocated for the other two, and I'll continue to do this. When you come at my daughter or my children, you're coming through me. You're coming through me. I always teach my kids to respect other folks. And I always tell them, regardless of how someone else's behave, you're still responsible for your own action. And I continue to teach her that. I teach her respect. But I also teach her that when people violate you and disrespect you in these ways, it's not something that you should wait for an apology from. You should stand up to say, I will not allow you to abuse me. I will not tolerate this. And it means that you have to talk about it and complain about it and stand up and ask people to take responsibility or be held accountable for it a million times. Sometimes it will appear as if you are the one with the problem. But if that's the case, so let it be. Our children are seeing these double standards in various situations. They're seeing the things that happen to them treated as if it's nothing and as if they have no feelings. And there's so much more to this story that I don't want to speak about right now for some reasons unknown to you. But I just want to say it's very sad that as adults we have decided not to put an end to strife, not to let go the residue of shame from the past. It's a disgrace that people are not using the opportunity to come together as a people. And so the issue of separation, the issue of conflict that we see in the world is because adults fail to teach the children about love, fail to promote harmony. There is absolutely no way that I would allow my child to abuse another child. There's no way, no justification, no excuse. If my child went to school and violated any kid in the slightest way, she would really have to speak to me about that. And I would make sure that doesn't happen again. Even when my kids were younger, I used to say to them, if you see someone being bullied, you do not stand there even from a distance and look on that. If you can't go get help for that kid, make sure you're not a part of it. Because you don't want to do to someone what you wouldn't want to have done to you. I continue to teach this to my daughter. I continue to share this message with my child. But I'm here for her. I stand up with her. Help her to navigate her way because she's underage. And when she's older, she'll be able to stand up for herself. But I will always be right behind them when they're old enough to say, I'm here to support you. I'm never going to take someone else's word over my own child. And I'm not prepared to allow my child to become the punching bag of anybody, or a person who they choose to use their verbiage to destroy. I'm here to build her, to strengthen her, to love her, to support her. And every time she look beside her or in front of her, I am there. Be there for your kids. Be their best advocate, and never let your child feel like someone is more important than them. And never allow your child to feel like someone else can abuse them and you will join in that. Because sometimes as parents, we do that. We allow kids to be victimized and then further victimized because we're not listening to them. We're not hearing their side of the story. We're not believing them. These adults weren't believing my daughter. And so they were treating her as if she was in need of counseling. And I was suspicious of that from the very beginning until finally the proof came. And if I tell you how standing up for my daughter, what that caused, it would be too much. One day I will. I will one day. Stay blessed.